Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shauna's Miraculous Podcast. It is May 17th, 2024. We have Maya on as a special guest. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. We had a lot of fun last time, so now we're here again.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Well, and the topic of relationships, but also projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections.
Yeah, we're talking about a really small topic today.
No kidding. Well, yeah, there was a lot coming up because I was chatting with you and you're like, yeah, we should do our call on the like PES Juniors. So PES Juniors is the acronym, by the
Yeah.
way.
So I think throughout the years, me and Shauna have a lot of relationship conversations, and probably for you in your own unique way, and as happened for me, like discovering all the information that Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here, and then Simone Milasas and a lot of other facilitators of access consciousness, but kind of they brought to the world this like very different perspective on human relations, relationships, communication between people. And for me, that was a huge shift because I think on some level, I always felt that I'm like very fucked up with relationship communication. I don't know, like long-term friendships, just all kinds of things. And going through the information that they provide is more about like just first of all seeing a different angle on
Mhm.
all of the subjects, but also just discovering what's true for you kind of thing. And the biggest thing is that you're not wrong, but
Mhm.
also that a lot of things that you were maybe made wrong about being aware of or like not doing like everybody else, that maybe they're not wrong actually. Like, so projections, expectations, separation, judgment, and rejections, which kind of encompasses a lot of things that are included in any contact with another human being. Suddenly, if we remove them from that contact and communication, like what is left and what is true and what is real. So it's definitely a dance, like because we all grew up with a lot of projections, a lot of expectations, a lot of judgments. It's
Mhm.
so yeah, that would be my intro to this topic.
Well, a lot came up, obviously, like as you were saying this, and um, one of the things that I looked at was because like for a while I was alone. Well, not alone. I still had people in my life, but I spent most of my time alone. And that's like not necessarily a wrongness because I remember, Gary saying like he's like you like to be alone. And it's one of those things that like happen within a second, but it's like, I don't need to make myself a wrongness, but then I was also trying to fill my life up with a lot of people and it was like really crunchy, like these symbiotic relationships that wouldn't work. Or actually, what's really funny is on this, so I did bring up the book because they wrote a book about it, and it's just so funny where it was left is where it says, quote, other people are like me, unquote. And it's like you think that other people are like you. If I project and expect that other people will like me, am I delusional or am I completely and utterly crazy? Or am I all those things? And it's like, and then it's the clearing statement, but it's like, I was just thinking about that. Like the other day, I was kind of, because I knew we were going to like have this podcast call, and I was looking around, and sometimes I do this. I'll be like, are we all just people walking around with our projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections, which kind of creates this like little insanity or like little blockade. And it's like, are we all just like going out into the world like this? And we're just,
Well, it's interesting because even with you bringing up if you would like to be around other people or would like to be alone, like that's how we even start impelling that stuff on ourselves, where the like the expectation or the projection will be like, I should be with other people. Like, how much do we even, we don't even need another person to do it. Like, we'll create it with ourselves. Like, that's how talented and amazing we are. But obviously, it's from our upbringing, from, what we learn culturally and in school and everywhere. It's like, and then it becomes, the way you talk to yourself at some point versus like, what would I truly like to choose with no projection, no expectation. And that's why it's a journey and an exploration. Like, it's not that it necessarily goes away after a day or a month or a year. Like,
Mhm. Well, so what I've decided to do is, yeah, I've taken tons of classes and I have a ton of manuals. And actually, yeah, in both, Talk to the Entities and Joy of Business for Business Done Different.
mhm,
Um, I'll kind of just read through the clearings because I'm like, okay, because I used to apply other books like Right Riches for You, Right Body for You, and like all these different books to my life. And of course, my life changed. And now I'm like, oh, business done different. Yes, I have a business and also Talk to the Entities. And I was like, okay, so when I read through these books, it includes Pez Juniors and it's like clear these daily. And I'm like, oh, wow. So it's like, and and I think sometimes what it gets down to is the biggest point of view I have like staring at me in the face. And I'm like, oh no, I don't have that point of view. Like, and I think, I'm not sure if you said this, but I think if we were to strip away everything at the end of the day, it's like, what are we left with, right? Like, so it's like, if we were just clear with none of these judgments or like projections or these like expectations, it's like, so then where are we at?
yeah.
Like might be a
And
bit
it
lighter.
literally takes like an exploration to even see it. It's when you start asking yourself, okay, what are my projections here? What are my expectations here? And it's just like we're removing layer after layer of things as we're willing to be aware of them and willing to not judge them. It just gives us more freedom, basically, with any relationship. And vice versa. It's like a lot of times, um, even when you just ask, like, okay, how many projections, expectations, separation judgments, and rejections are towards me right now from anyone, it's like, whew, and then you can feel this like relief or lightness. So just even, yeah, just clearing that, as you said, every day creates a huge difference. Because as we gave the example of like our own self-talk, a lot of things we might be functioning from things that other people project and expect of us without even realizing that it's not our, like, first choice, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I sense a lot of people like sometimes have a wall up, or I mean a wall could be the a good explanation, or like the being afraid or not being able to have friendships with people because they think, oh, this person might be mean to me, or oh, they're gonna screw me over, or oh, they're gonna stab me in the back. And when I look at my friendships, or just even getting to know people, it's like if you become aware of these, for example, judgments, is a good example because sometimes I'm not sure if everyone can hear everybody's thoughts or sense the judgments, but sometimes I'm like, oh wow, that's a huge judgment. Or even just the plan. Okay, I'll just say it. The other day I got like a text message and it was the most judgmental text message I'd ever received. And I was like, oh wow. And it wasn't like it was just like this massy, heavy thing. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, and I was like, okay, receive the judgments. I was like, but I was like, wow, this doesn't happen very often. And I was like, oh, okay, crazy. But it's like, are we aware of these things that we do that are these Pez Juniors, and does that work in the end? So does it work to, throw these out there is that what this person was wishing to do, and in some cases when people have their judgments and their actions and then the friendship ends because of for whatever reason, it can be very like almost like heads butting. It's like, are people ending the friendships in order to get what they really want? It's like, truth, did you actually want to have this friendship? No, it was kind of boring. Oh, okay, cool, maybe move on. Did you really want to date this person? But then it's all these things that, these actions or words that people do in order to end it and then have the freedom to move forward, but it's like, it's very interesting.
Recently, I was watching a very silly show. We have a thing in Access that we run bars to all kinds of content that triggers us in different ways. So I was watching the reality TV show called Love is Blind.
Oh, I love
And
that.
what is so wonderful about that show is just it's like a dictionary for projections, expectations, separation, judgments, and rejections. Because like people talk for like 12 minutes and already it's like, I project that this person will be perfect as a father. I expect this person to be my loyal partner for life. And it just, since it's obviously dramatized and it's a reality show, and it also really, really shows how we start having those projections and expectations and judgments in motion.
Yeah.
Or somebody gave a bracelet to someone and that someone wasn't wearing the bracelet. So already the person was like going off on what that means. And that was like it. And the whole show is like that. Yeah. But it like, and if you take it to your life, like, cause maybe sometimes we are not that extreme, but sometimes we are like the things that we create in our minds, that the more we're willing to laugh about it and choose something different, it just makes our life easier. But like every time you're like, oh, I expect my partner to do this, I judge that my partner is right or wrong if they're doing this or not doing this. Like it's just,
Yeah, well,
we
that's
learn to create such insane relationships, and until you start seeing a different possibility of like what great communication, relationship, communion can be,
mhm.
you're, yeah, you don't have, you're sometimes or most of the time just totally blind to like how much of your relationships are from projections, expectations, separation, judgments, and rejection.
Well, I think the biggest thing are the projections where a lot, like you said, like, and the bracelet was a perfect example because I know exactly what you're talking about. I've watched it all.
Oh, go.
So, and I really should get my bars run way more often.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so with the bracelet, okay, so when you have that bracelet on and you tap it, that other person's supposed to feel it. So if one person's wearing it and tapping it all day because they love that person and the other person's not wearing it,
All right.
and the other person doesn't feel how you're thinking about them all day. And
Yeah.
so I think,
What does it mean? What is it like? Immediately there's interpretation, there's like conclusion, and that's where the fighting begins. And like I wonder how many times, like how big of a percentage of the time it's just based on misunderstanding or conclusions or projections, expectations.
well, and the control, because like how many people want to control, and I wonder, because there's so many levels to this. It's like, how aware and conscious are people of their reactions and actions and control, which creates all these projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections. So it's like, when someone wants to control somebody, it's like they could, put them on their GPS and watch where they go every day. Because that happened. Did that happen in Love is Blind? I think he,
Possibly,
I think
possibly.
he was like, he's like, oh, I'm in a parking lot.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
And she's like, actually, you were at this girl's house.
Right, right.
You know?
I
And
was
it's like,
checking your, yeah.
well, and the control could be like, are you wearing that bracelet? And where's your GPS at? Like, where are you? Or it's like, are you coming to this event? Are you, and then like, but one of the things that come up as I say this is invitation is never an expectation, which is a quote from Shannon O'Hara.
Mm.
So she did an invitation call. So if like you want to invite people to your life, it's not an expectation, like, yeah. Um, but that
So it's
relationship,
huge. It's huge topic. Yeah, we're we're not gonna take apart the whole thing in 30 minutes. And there is a book, as Shauna mentioned, that is phenomenal. It's like super thin, but it takes a while
Mhm,
to
mhm.
actually absorb the information in the book.
Yeah.
And then you go on a journey, like it doesn't end. It's like, oh wow, how many projection expectations did your parents have of you? And like it can be intentional or not intentional, and we can take on things that whether they wanted to even, you know, impel that on us or not. So it's not even about the blame game or anything like that. It's just like, were you expected to be a good daughter? Where like just all these things start to showing up, and it's for the exploration. It's not in order to make anything wrong, or it just gives you more options and possibilities in life, basically.
I find that there's a lot of people who, like that I've met, who are the, I think this might be the word, the spinstress to their family. So
Mhm.
like the maiden to the mother and their sister who will always and forever never be at their service and beck and call.
Mhm.
Amen. And it's like, and when I look at that, like when I was younger, I mean, I'm a bit of a wild card. So as soon as I turned maybe like 16 or 17, I got my license, I was gone. I was like, boom. I was
Mhm.
like, never home, always out and about. And I don't think I mean, that's a deeper conversation with the, family thing, because that's almost like more
Yeah.
layers. But what I see clearly is there's some people out there who are like, just in that relationship with their family and they give themselves up and they don't have a life of their own and they're like a slave to their family. And
Yeah.
I would this goes back from like a long time ago, and I said to this person, I was like, don't you want to be your own self and like make your own decisions? And the person's like, no, I love my mom. And I was like, okay, bye. I was like, never speaking to you again. Just kidding. All
Mm.
my projections and expectations of
Yeah.
people should not be slaves to their family.
Exactly. The should not can be a great indication to us to where we're starting to project and expect as one. And it's really funny, like everything we're talking about, I'm thinking about a reality show, which I don't think I watched so much until this year, but oh my God. Because oh, what's it called? The matchmaker ones, the Indian matchmaker and the Jewish matchmaker. So they're both like built on like I project that my son is this perfect thing, and therefore like all these things and then the meaning starts, or what the wife should be starts like, and it's all projections and expectations.
That's funny because the Indian matchmaker is like crazy because she's like, he has to be tall,
Yeah,
handsome, good
yeah,
looking, and have a job. But then it's funny because I guess I watched the American matchmaker and it's kind of more about the host herself. But these people who come in, they're just like, again, it's all these projections and expectations. And it's like, it also shows how sometimes people have no regard for others. So there was this
yeah,
guy and he was like a billionaire. Millionaire matchmaker. That's what I was watching. Millionaire matchmaker. So there's all these people with money and this guy comes in and he's like, I want a boyfriend, but he's really, he only thinks of himself and he's not very quite nice. So when he goes when and a lot of these people when they go on dates, they're really like it's almost like an experiment for them. Oh, what can I get this person to do? Or like and then just putting the person down and insulting them. And I'm like, holy, no wonder you're single.
Yeah,
because
which
there's
is
so
another,
many.
like, if I have money, I project and expect everybody to, I don't know, go my way or do what I say. Or so it's again like, let's say a person like that would like more awareness and information about themselves, then that would be like, oh wow, okay, so what projections and expectations do I have here that keep creating this judgment and separation on dates or something like that. Like if I take it to a actual question for people who would like awareness, like I don't know, if you're dating, if you're meeting new people and you see things that keep showing up or keep repeating themselves, well, and even if not, but it's like, okay, so what am I projecting and expecting here that keeps the separation, judgment, and rejection in place?
It's yeah, I totally get that. And even trying to apply it to myself can be like it's really breaking the reactions, like the reactive realities, because I see this
Mm,
not just in me, but it's always like easier to view outside. The people who have those projections, as soon as it's not fulfilled, there's a reaction. And then
yeah,
people start reacting in these weird ways. And obviously, it doesn't create a relationship because they're running with their reactions. And then it's just them in their world with their reactions. And then you're like the other side sitting there like, huh, like okay, I guess that's not happening.
it's also funny that we're talking about reality shows because like the life without projections, expectation, separation, judgment, and rejection is kind of drama free. And it takes a lot of us a long while to get to a place where we actually want a drama free life. Like, and it's again, it's not wrong. We get to this place where we have to say, oh, okay, I love the drama. I love the conflict. I love the intrigue. And and again, like what else can I choose and what else would I like to choose? But it's like those uh, relationships where you have none of that, it's very peaceful.
And probably like a lot of allowance.
Yeah. And which is really like the complete opposite of reality and drama and entertainment TV.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at this where it's like if I see what I'm being and like who I'm being and everything that I am, it's like, oh, I can see where I'm doing this and then starting to change all of this. So again, it's almost like once you start to change all these things and be aware of it, then you can like maybe invite somebody different into your life rather than all like you sent me that meme of like the snake dressed up, the snake with the hat on and the makeup. I was like, ooh, that looks great. It's like all of my relationships.
I thought it was perfect for our show today.
I wonder if I could put that on the image of the show.
Exactly.
It's so
So
funny.
when we see that snake and we already project and expect that they will be wonderful when actually they're a snake, it's like, again, we're just pretty much putting a trap on ourselves to, like, get to the disappointment or the point where it backfires. It's just, and that's what
Or
projection and expectation does. It's like you make yourself blind to what actually is real and true with a person standing in front of you.
yeah, or I like spent like four you could spend your rest of your life with that. I spent like 4 years with like that type of energy of like being constricted and like judged and bastardized. And I was like, oh wow, cool. I love you so much. I still love you. I'll
Yeah.
still talk to you. And yeah. But and what I think is really cool about well, I stream on different platforms, and a lot of Americans are always like, fuck that. They're always like either like fuck that bitch or fuck that. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? But it's almost like I find, and through my experience with like connecting with a lot of Americans on stream, they're quick to drop somebody. They're quick to be
Mm.
like, nope, not happening. Just move forward. And I'm like, wow, you know, is it that easy?
Well, it is that easy when it's somebody else's life, I would say, for starters.
Hmm,
But
yeah. Well, yeah, it's easy for people to say it.
yeah,
Easy to be
And
said.
then examining, which is a big part of what we were talking about, because you really have to be willing to examine your behavior, your relationships, your expectations. Like um it's a journey that requires a lot of brutal honesty with self, which is not something that everybody desires, and that's fine.
Well, it's really funny. I went to a bar and this guy just started chatting to me and just through normal conversation, he was like, "Wow, you're bossy." And I was like, "What?" It's like, "Whoa, buddy." But it was really funny because I don't really I'm starting to kind of not take things from people, like, and not be such a doormat and like getting some standards, which does kind of like change a lot as well.
But that's also a great example because, like, if somebody projects at you, wow, you are bossy, like, if you don't align and agree and don't resist and react, that's where choice begins. Like, if the moment you said that, the first thing that came to me was like that people always projected at me that I was a shy girl, like when I was little. They would always, that would be like one of the first things that people would say to me or my parents. And it's like, if you start aligning and agreeing to that or doing the opposite energy, which is kind of a rebel energy to that, then that's it. Like
Mhm.
you're washed away with that as one of your projections and expectations. So you start separating from these people or functioning from their judgments, and that's where you lose you versus like, oh yeah, thank you, I am bossy
Mhm.
sometimes. Sometimes I'm not.
Yeah, just kind of completely being like, okay, cool. Well, that's what happened with the doctor recently. It was so funny because he was trying to be so nice, but he was like, "Oh my God, look at your skin." He's like, he's like, "It's so dry." And I'm like, okay. Then he flips my hand over. "Oh God, look at the pigment. The pigmentation's so weird." I was like, okay. And then he's like, "And look at this and look at that." And he's like picking me apart. And I was like, wow. And I just sat there. I was like, cool. I was like, and it was so funny.
Maybe that's not your job as a medical doctor. Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah. And then puts me on skin medication, antibiotics.
All right.
It's so funny.
Versus aloe vera.
But yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, what projections, expectations, separation, judgments do I have towards? It could be
Hmm.
put insert name. It could be
Hmm.
just a general what projections, expectations, separation, judgment, rejections are to delivered towards me right now without a specific person. The more you start playing with those questions, the more awareness you get.
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I'll definitely be clearing that every day. It's the
Another thing,
layers.
since you mentioned business, one of the cooler stories from Access is that Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, asked his employees to run the clearing statement with projections, expectations on all the items on his in his antique shop in Australia.
Oh,
And
wow.
after they did that, the sales went up like a huge percentage. So also know that you can use that in your business, or if you have physical items, or it doesn't matter, even if you have digital items,
Wow.
try and explore and see what that creates for you.
That is super cool. Well, yeah. Thanks for that. I think it's so funny because, like, I think we covered relationships quite a bit, and it's like,
Oh my God, there's so much more.
we will be back again. We'll make another podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, thanks for hopping on. We will move forward, and we'll chat again.
And if you guys ever have particular questions about relationships, we're happy to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. So you mentioned the clearing statement. So that's at www.theclearingstatement.com. And then Maya here is a certified facilitator. So you have your website. Is it www.mayadiane.com?
Yeah.
And then I've got my website is www.freedom or clarityandfreedomconsulting.com. So yep, you guys can, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, and we're always here. We've got your back.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.